Are we live? Just share this. Right, so take it. Assalamu alaikum. Whoa, what's going on there, people? Look at that. Hearing my own voice. Ya salam. Let me just share this Q&A live and unrestricted. That's what I'm talking about. Tune in, folks. Those of you just tuning in, right, if you like, share, get it out there, people. Spread the love. Afwan, afwan, afwan. Well, alright, so we've got quite a few questions. Inna alhamdulillah wa kafah, wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulih al-Mustafa, wa ala ibadi alladhina irtada, wa man bihudahum ihtada, wa bi athari ahli al-Madinah iqtafa, wa ba'd. فسلام الله على القوم وأهلا وسهلا بكم ومرحبا وخشا مديد وحوانينغ Layth. Bienvenidos a todos y swagatam, people. Swagatam, swagatam. We are here. We are indeed. Just trying to straighten up my iPad so it doesn't fall. Alright, well, we are good to go. Alright, people, alright. So, whilst you're tuning in, click like, click share, get it out there, people. Spread the love. Get it out there, people, get it out there. Let other people tune in. Alright, alaykum assalam, Kamran, Hina. What al-Hanafi, Carlos. Alright, Carlos, ¿qué tal? How's it going, man? How's it going? ¿Qué hubo? Right, you got Ijaz, Nashwa, Sara, Sabri. Ahlan wa sahlan bikum, ahlan wa sahlan. Tune in, people. Click like, click share, share that feed. Don't be tight-fisted, people. Right, get it out there. So, na'am, what are we looking at? From a very hot West Africa is Momo Tal tuning in. Alright, with all the bringing that heat and humidity to Monday nights. Got others, Ajaz, Ahlan wa Sahlan, Isa, Alam, and Ifzal. Alright, man, how you doing? Yasir is in the house. I gotta say, and Waqar, shukran. Alright, and Sid, that's what I'm talking about. Let the fitna and fasad begin. You know, somebody asked me once, they said, what's all this fitna? I said, look, Allah says in the Quran that, the verse about ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر, that corruption has spread throughout the land and the sea. And I said, somebody has to act according to that verse of the Quran. Somebody has to be... that's a joke. Nowadays, you know what it is? People have become so dysfunctional. I got to speak about some of that. They're just so like, oh, you say something, what did Mufti say that for? It's going to be... oh, he said he's the Dajjal. What is it? I wonder how life is for those kind of people. It must be Joanna, Zara, Imran Khan. All right. Ahlan wa sahlan. Is that Doc? Ahlan wa sahlan, Doc. Ben. All right. Ben is in the house, people. Awesome hooking up meeting yesterday. Right, Waqas, Elizabeth. Right, people, many of us have tuned in. Click like, click share, get this out there. Just want to make sure you see the question. I haven't seen the question. In Surah, kills a boy and justifies it. The Ottoman Sultan used this to kill their brothers. Interesting. That's a good question, Saraj. I'd like to come to that. I would like to come to that. Binam. Que hubo? Que pasó? All right. How come no one got mad, made a joke about hitting you with a stick? You see, people, I'm going to speak about this thing. So let's get started. First of all, first and foremost, there was a talk that went down. It wasn't a talk. It was a Q&A. Went down yesterday. Totally. Look at this. See, I can use the mirror to kind of like mirror the screen. Just like check my beard's on point. If this is a beard, according to some people, this ain't a beard. So I don't know. La adri. Right. So yesterday's Q&A was awesome. It was in central London. Arranged by Waqar, so much love and respect to Waqar for arranging that. It was interesting. There were a few different elements that made it really interesting. One, the fact that there were certain non-Muslims there and they had their questions from their perspective, which is not something you get to do every day in person. Deal with people who are sensible, non-Muslim, and they've got genuine, maybe challenging questions about Islam. So I think that was great. In addition to that, got to deal with some of the questions that were tackling, challenging, and quite importantly, I got to meet a lot of people who I know through Facebook, but I've never really met. And it's an interesting kind of I suppose like a bond that you have, like people you see them so often online, this social media profile of these. It's as though you know them. I mean, you do know them, I guess, from an angle, and to meet them in person, and then it's good. It's really good. I think I really enjoyed that. A lot of people were there that I see online. Ben, our Maliki Viking. All right, Yasir. Nadir, there was a few Maulanas, Maulana Habib. It's good to see that kind of Maulana crowd that I would really love to see more and more of, really. There was another Maulana, there were 1-2 Maulanas there. There was, just trying to think, there's so many names, they slip in my mind. But there was also, there were some brothers from the Shia community. That was really refreshing to see. I really enjoyed meeting them. Sayyid Raza, and there was another brother as well, and they were active brothers from the Shia community. They're not just happen to be Shia, and I think it was good. It was really refreshing. It meant a lot to me to kind of be able to see. To meet people, to have a chat with them, to mingle, and I meant what I said by the way, to the Shia brothers, that I really do feel we need to build bridges, and I think, I'm not saying like that, that wasn't to kind of suggest, let's have an event or let's something like that, but just personal humanizing bridges. Not that there's anything wrong with events either, but I'm just saying we need to build human interaction, need to kind of humanize and have this. And I would like to say on that note that I think one of the brothers who really, he couldn't make it yesterday. I was looking forward to meeting him. He's from Canada. He was in London yesterday and I was hoping to meet him. Ustad we've got we've sorry, I just remembered something that there's, you see, there were a few important things that, sorry, just came to my mind's all over the place, but and I would like to kind of tackle, there was some questions and some pertinent kind of things that were put forward to do with faith and stuff like this, and I want to kind of come to that, inshallah. But anyway, coming back to, I wanted to, Ustad Kaleem Qadri Saab, he was in London and I really wanted to meet up with him. He's one of the people that really made me realize that, look, you know, this kind of Sunni-Shia thing. Because I think, if I can be fair about, I refer to him as Ustad, as Kaleem Saab, Kaleem Ji, Ustad Kaleem. I think he openly says he's Sunni-Shia, he's like both. And he made me kind of think that, look, a while back, there was a bit of a kind of rough, there was a bit of a run-in online that I had with certain, you could say with maybe the Shia community, and I was upset about certain things, and I made some videos, and a lot of people were kind of trolling me. And when you're being trolled, it kind of heightens your sensitivity levels. And I have to say, at that time, you get more and more kind of, you spiral into it. And a lot of people who are trolling me, I just kind of, we just have that kind of just block them, like I'm not interested in trolls. And somebody tagged in Kaleemji into one of the things, and I was a bit thinking, oh no, because I kind of like him and I was hoping he wouldn't troll me just in case one of the guys block him or something. And but his response was really interesting at the time. Like, he just said, like, look, and what? Like, you know, Mufti holds these views. I hold views that people would deem are maybe Shia. I still feel I'm part of the Sunni. Like, and what? Like, people have always held different views. And it was a real wake-up call to me. Honestly, I'm being honest. I'm kind of sharing this with you guys. None of the scholars really woke me up from that kind of thing the way he did. And he never even said it directly to me. I just read his thing and I just felt, damn, like, and I thought about it, and the more I thought about it, I thought, look, that yes, it is true. I, for example, I do think fondly of people like Sayyidina Muawiyah radiallahu an, maybe not all of Bani Umayyah, the whole kind of kings and whatever, but Muawiyah radiallahu an, I do think positively of him, and I think of, obviously, greatly of all the other companions and stuff. But look, if, let's just be honest, that the situation is this: people are Sunni or Shia or Muslim or Hindu or Christian or whatever. We are these things because we're just born into them most of the time. And then we've just had so much fortification of our kind of understanding. So I thought, look, if I've got these views and somebody doesn't like, let's say somebody doesn't like Muawiyah, for whatever reason, sure, that's not my understanding, but I just won't discuss these things in front of them. And their understanding, like how Kaleem had said, that look, he just won't discuss these things with people like me, and that's fine. And we'll just discuss all the other hundreds of, you know, thousands of things that we can discuss without getting, you know, having certain opinions. And what? And it really just, I don't know, I'm just sharing this with you guys. It was a real kind of personal wake-up call for me at the time. So even though being firmly on my understanding, I thought, look, people are born into certain things. Yes, if they ask me personally, if somebody comes to me and asks me personally, I will be very clear that this is my understanding. And I stand firmly that we should not abuse people, especially venerated figures, even if we disagree with them. But I just won't do things like discuss certain things in front of certain people that they don't settle well with. And hopefully, if they're sensible, they just won't discuss certain things in front of me. And it's okay. You know, we can, you know, we've got bigger fish to fry, so to speak, like great challenges. And so, right. So that's just some thoughts I wanted to share. And I do, inshallah, look forward to, so Kaleem Saab, if you're watching this, inshallah, much love, inshallah, and I totally look forward to meeting up next time. Right, so that was that. That was an awesome Q&A yesterday. Some interesting questions. Cool, so what else is going on, people? Fatwa coming your way, buddy. All right. Let any fatwa come my way. I don't really. Do I look bothered? There's this old, is it a Muhammad Rafi song that I heard that मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, that I just went with life, like just went with the kind of just roll with life. हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया. Says every worry and problem, I just let it be, man. It don't bother me. It's all good, man. I thought, what, you know, the lyrics to that song, it's an old song. He says, he has another line in there, something about, what did he say? Not musibat. He speaks about tragedies where he says, oh damn, slipped my mind now. But but anyway, I'll come to it. It's got some very meaningful kind of lyrics in there. So let's take some questions, people. Let's take some questions. But I like that you know, har fikr ko dhuein mein udata chala gaya. Like, just let it go up as smoke. All these worries, they don't bother me. So, no Coke, no Red Bull. Hell yeah, right there, people, right there. Whoa, that's strong today. I don't know what I've mixed. What's the explanation? Did the Prophet ascend to the heavens? I've got a YouTube clip on that already. Isra wal Mi'raj was a vision. It wasn't a physical. Do I smoke? I don't smoke, no. I'm just high. What's your approach to the Exodus? What Exodus are we speaking about? Are you speaking about the Exodus of Moses? Or are you speaking about the Exodus of movement of the people? What are you speaking about? What Exodus? Kol hove te Hasan Loki, na hove te Ron. Okay, alright. The Bani Israel, Moses leaving Egypt. I'm not sure what the question is. How do we prove the Exodus? I've not really, if I'm going to be honest, examined the Exodus too closely. I've not really thought about it much. What's the issue with the Exodus? May the curse of Allah be upon the one who hears and doesn't send salam. You know, this thing of may the curse of Allah, it isn't haram. Let's just clarify this. If somebody says the Prophet's name and you don't say sallallahu alaihi wasallam or something, it is not haram. Okay, I know today scholars have kind of like, they're trying to, this is just, once again, what a poor interpretation. So they've taken, sorry, I'm just trying to at the same time fix up my... They've taken a hadith where the Prophet was trying to teach us the art of giving. He was trying to teach us the art of giving, that whosoever hears my name and mentions this, Allah will send 10 blessings onto him. He was trying to teach us the art of giving, because this is what makes human beings, the ability to give. And think about it, making a prayer for somebody costs you nothing. It's cost free. Yet we hold back. We refuse to make prayers for people. And the Prophet was trying to teach you the art of giving by sending blessings upon him. This is from the highest levels of adab. This was not like, people have this, curse. And this hadith about curse, in my understanding, is in reference to those people who were trying to mock the Prophet or curse him. And the Prophet saying, just as a, like the Prophet's teaching them manners, he's teaching them the art of giving. And these people, because there were certain known hypocrites at the time of the Prophet, and the Prophet knew about them. And when the Prophet's name would be mentioned, they would come up with certain things, and they would try to mock it, and they would try. And he said this as a reference to them. Not for mankind. May mankind be cursed if they don't give unto me. Like, if they don't send me blessings. The Prophet doesn't need your blessings. Right? So that's a very poor understanding of this. When people say, so just to clarify, it is recommended, okay, to say these things. It is not an obligation, but it is from your love for the Prophet. That's what it is. As opposed to trying to scare you to say. And hence Muslims that start, you wrote the word Muhammad and you didn't say, you sallallahu alayhi wasallam, lynch him. That defies so many people in the Prophet's time forget saying. They used to be like the Bedouins that would come in, they were just very rough. Ya Muhammad, come over here. And the Prophet would just go and say, how can I help you? One of the Arabi came, he dragged the Prophet from here. He grabbed him and dragged him and said, listen to me. And the Prophet just told him to ease up and said, yeah, how can I help you? You could have said, how dare you? Do you know if you say my name and you don't say sallallahu alayhi wasallam, watch what happens to you. The Prophet was sent as a mercy. These mafia tactics that the Mulvis and some people, certain people are adopting in trying to emotionally guilt trip and blackmail other Muslims into feeling inferior by saying, you never said sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous, people. Let's take some questions. What have we got? What's going on? So, shall I deal with the sarcasm and satire? About being related to sell the not so modest Muslim Western clothing as in business. Of course, you can sell any clothing as business. It doesn't have to. You don't have to. If I want to go into the clothing industry, I don't have to start selling burqas. You can sell anything from burqas, which I wouldn't recommend selling burqa. But you could, from there, right down to the least, whatever you're saying, sexual outfits, anything. These things are not haram to sell, okay? People can buy them, okay? It's not haram. You don't have to be like, if I'm going to sell clothing, I can only sell this. I want everybody dressed like that. Or according to some narrations of some people, just one eye. Because two eyes is excess for a woman. But then if it's one eye, it might be perceived as the Dajjal. People. Right, so where we at, people? Where we at? Is it kufr to take part in an LGBT pride march. It's not kufr, it's not disbelief. Of course it's not disbelief. It's a different question what you're doing there. It's a different question. Hello, rather. Hello. But it's not kufr. It doesn't make you into a... Doing this doesn't make you into a kafir. Hey! Oh no! There goes my iman. That would be hilarious. But it's not kufr. It's a different question. What are you doing there? That's a more intriguing and curiosity triggering question. You could be like, hey, I was just following the rainbow. I thought there was a pot of gold at the end of this. There seems to be some guy here dressed in leather. Right, so yeah, anyway, let's come back to your opinion on Mazars and Awliya. I mean, it depends what that means. Mazars are like graveyards, sorry, not grave, shrines and things like this. I'm not really into all of that stuff. I know a lot of people are, but that's like folklore religion, isn't it? It's like you're going to get that in many religions. It doesn't matter. It's not specific to Islam. You're going to get it in Christianity, Hinduism, different things, everything, the shrines, and it's just folklore. Very common, but yeah, folklore. So, right, so what are we looking at? Can you also comment on Malik ibn Nuwaira incident? Which incident are you referring to of Malik ibn Nuwaira? I love how people just say, hey, can you just, like somebody said, you know, Surah number 5 verse 40, and they expect me to be like, oh yeah, that one. Oh no, not that one. Oh, the other one. Come on, man. I wish I was like that. Like, you know, verse 62, Surah 62 verse 8. Oh yeah. No, sorry. Surah 73 verse 18. Oh yeah, that one. Yeah. Come on, man. I wish. So what are we looking at? What are your thoughts on people calling themselves Sayyids? I see this more as a social kind of thing that people have done. To me, all Muslims are equal. Even if a person was a Sayyid or he wasn't a Sayyid, I don't buy everybody who says he's a Sayyid to be a Sayyid to start off with. I don't buy into that anyway. I think there's an excess amount of blagging out there that everybody claims to be from the Prophet's family. But even if they were, to me, they are just like every other Muslim. That Allah says, Inna akrabakum indallahi atqakum, people who are most God conscious. They deserve that kind of rank according to Allah, not by lineage or by things like this. And that's the verse of the Quran. I know people disagree with that understanding, and some people do give kind of tribal or lineage things great. They think it's up there, you know, it's Chaudhry Saab, it's one of these things, but I don't personally buy into all of that stuff. I think these are just social structures that people have put into place to have like power positions. Is it true that Abdullah Ibn Saba was the first person to claim that Isa won't be returning? No, not at all. On the contrary, I actually believe Abdullah Ibn Saba, who is involved he's a very interesting character because he's involved in a lot of early corruption to Islamic beliefs and a lot of not just beliefs but also conspiring, which led to a lot of warfare, and people could say all kinds of things it led to. Abdullah Ibn Saba, I believe, was one of the first people who was part of what became the Mahdi movement, and like this concept of a Messiah comes from people. I'm not saying him specifically, but he was part of what set into motion this whole thing about a Messiah. That's what I believe. Some of the early people to ever have this claim of a Messiah were like the Kaysaniya, were a particular sect that were linked originally to certain people like Mukhtar. Now Mukhtar, I'm not sure, he may be highly revered by some of the Shia, so I'm not really sure what their perspective on him is. He was generally very close to the son of Ali radiallahu an, Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, and he partook in exacting revenge from the people that had killed Hussein. He was part of that movement, Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. But along the way, so first he called for a pledge of allegiance to Muhammad ibn Hanafiya, the son of Ali radiallahu an. Later on, he kind of departed ways from Muhammad and called to himself. And then later on, according to general Sunni thought, I'm not sure whether the Shia agree or disagree with that, but according to general Sunni thought, he claimed himself to be a Messiah and a Mahdi. And according to many or certain perspectives, this is where this kind of Messiah thing originates, or it has a lot of its roots. It's then adopted by one of his key followers known as Kaysan, which then becomes part of a Kaysaniya movement. And this then later on gets embraced by more and more Muslims, and then mainstream Muslims later on. So on the contrary, Abdullah ibn Saba is actually involved with the other side, as in setting into motion. Shias curse him, Mukhtar. Okay, I didn't know that. I don't know their perspective, but I know he was one of the people who exacted. He had a movement called the Tawwabin, and they were exacting revenge for the murder of Hussein. But then later on, it becomes this movement with where he calls to himself as a Mahdi, and then according to Sunni sources, he said things like Jibreel comes to me and stuff like this, and I have revelation. And once again, I don't know what the Shia believe about him. So let's take a look, people. What's going on? What are we looking at? All right, so is it true that left the gatherings of Malik, and why? The Alawites, I'm not sure what you mean by the Alawites. Imam Malik wasn't really very... you see, Shia in the early days meant it was more a political thing, and it became more and more of a theological, religious thing as time went by. Imam Malik wasn't inclined that way. So I can see why there wasn't too much of an interest in Imam Malik, I guess. Which PL team do you support? What does that mean, PL? Is that some kind of cricket? I don't watch sports. I'm a bit boring like that. Right, so let's take some questions, people. What are we? I'm trying to go to the questions that have been posted. Did the Prophet refer to black people as raisin heads? That's not true. That's not true. Okay, that would be disgusting to refer that back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Not true at all. Prophet never referred to anybody as raisin head. That's disgusting, okay, to say that. And the Prophet said to a companion who had insulted another companion for saying, "You son of a black woman," and just using the word black. And the Prophet said to him that innaka imra'un fika jahiliya, that you are a man who still has jahiliya in you. And he told the other person, you can retaliate from him if you like. So that is not the case at all. And you've got to remember something. Hadith, you see, we've got another, and this isn't to cast any doubt on Hadith, but this is just to bring in a clearer HD picture of Hadith. You've got to remember that many scholars of Hadith allowed Hadith to be transmitted by paraphrasing. Now, some scholars were harshly against that, like Imam Malik was harshly against paraphrasing Hadith, but the majority of the Hadith scholars allowed it. So they said that you could, like, let's say there's a Hadith of the Prophet, let's just say, like, this is an example, like, let's say actions are by intentions. Now, let's say the Prophet said, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ, that actions are with intentions. Now, somebody could say, for example, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ تَدُورُ عَلَى النِّيَّاتِ, the actions, or إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ, like, let's say somebody's trying to understand it and he's filling in gaps, or he's replacing words that are similar words. Like, let's say the Prophet said, for example, I'm just giving an example, like in the Arabic language there's the word Amir and somebody replaces it with the word Qa'id, like, which is, like, these are similar. Like, people felt, the majority of people, some people were against this, like Imam Malik, other people felt, oh, you can do this, and they started to transmit Hadith by meaning. Now, so sometimes you will get certain Hadith that are not, they're not at all the wording of the Prophet, but maybe there was some meaning about the message there, which you'll have to look at other Hadith and understand. But I'm just giving an example. In some cases, it's always pertinent to be aware of these things, okay? You see, like that Hadith right there, that Hadith is problematic right there, okay? The person saying ra'suhu, and this is never, like, you show me any Hadith where the Prophet has spoken like that, this was their language. Now, these kind of things would have normally come into, I'll tell you where they would have come into existence. They would have come into existence when there was political strife, and people were trying to say that you need to follow this Amir even though he's got faults. So people were very likely to kind of reinterpret things to bring about rulings that, now the Prophet generally spoke about things like, he spoke about things like you should have obedience to your rulers and things like, obviously you shouldn't just be rebellious and there should be peace. Now people would take this kind of overall message and use it to serve their political kind of goals and agendas. That is a given, 100%. And people would say things like, so for example, when people said, so I'm going to answer this, show you later on, that let's say there were several leaders, Muslim leaders, who were sometimes open homosexuals. And this is an example, and there were others who openly did crime, and they openly kind of, there were some who openly murdered, there were some who openly looted people, robbed them, they drank alcohol openly, they did these kind of things. Now, people would have justified their cause with these kind of hadith, and I guarantee you that hadith alone, if you allow me, inshallah, next week, I will go through the chain of these ahadith and show you that even the chains will be problematic. But obviously, because this is a live session, I can't do that right now. Right. I totally agree. Paraphrasing hadith is a problem. I am very much against these kind of things, but it's already done now. There's not much. Your say and my say doesn't make a difference. So I think, like, I do agree. Paraphrasing, and hence Imam Malik was against paraphrasing a hadith, and he did feel that it may lead into a lot of problems. But you'll see even Imam Bukhari does accept, as far as I'm aware, paraphrasing certain ahadith. He does accept that. So you will see even in Bukhari, that's my understanding. Okay, let's move on, people. What are the questions behind seeing the mayyit's face? Right, okay. Muslims have a practice that when somebody has died, they want to see the face of the dead body. This isn't an Islamic practice per se, but it's not necessarily, is it against Islam? Like, does Islam prohibit seeing the face of a dead body? It doesn't. So you will see hadith where the Prophet, a dead companion was brought before the Prophet, and the Prophet kissed his forehead and before praying the janazah. It's not, there's nothing wrong in that, but it's not a religious practice either. It's not like, hey, so and so's dead, let's go see his face. I mean, that bechara's dead. I mean, obviously, he's hardly going to be like, like, obviously he's dead. So, but I mean, if you wanted to have your kind of farewell, obviously you can do that. Sometimes I think maybe it gives some people closure. I think it can be, I don't know really. It can be for and against. I think there's arguments. Sometimes it can be scary. I mean, obviously, like, because people when they're dead, they look all, because there isn't fresh blood going through them and things like this, and they've been embalmed and had all these things, and they look all dull, and if you go there and he looks like you go there and he's like or somebody's sitting there like right. So, but you know what I would like to see though, as a custom, I would like to see that at funerals, the way people do things sometimes here amongst certain non-Muslims, I would like to see them commemorate the life of the deceased. I would like to see that. If I could start a trend within rituals or ritual areas like funerals, the thing I would do is I would advise that people say some words about him or her, what their life was about, what you can remember what those people can be remembered for. I mean, Christians do it, and it's not a Christian thing. It's not something that the religion taught them, but they just do it. And I actually think it's an amazing thing. That's what I like it. I'm being honest, because Muslims just have I don't know, because I've only been to certain funerals that are mainly, like, let's say, within the community, Indo-Pak kind of funerals, and they're just, everybody's sitting there counting those kind of, they just sit there like this, and every person who comes in goes, Fatiha, and everybody goes, and then they put it, and then they just carry on talking, and then there's a custom, you've got to say to everybody, Allah ni marzi, Allah ni marzi. You got to say that to everybody, Allah ki marzi, Allah ki marzi. And then people are like, Allah ki marzi, Allah. And everybody's like that. And then they just carry on talking. Like, hey, what you up to? No way. Has the tax gone up? No way. Yeah, man. Oh, hey, check this out. What's going on here? And this is all that's going on. And then they just like, they have loads of these date seeds, and everybody just, Subhanallah, 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 Subhanallah. And, like, I honestly, I'm going to be honest. I do not like all that kind of stuff. It's not, I find it like very, it completely puts me off. And then they're just like a quick janazah, and the janazah is fine, the prayer is fine, and then they just make a dua, the dua is fine, and that's it. People now go, see the dead body's face, see the face, and then everybody walks off, and that's it. So I'm kind of disappointed. Am I a taxi driver? I'm not a taxi driver, but if you want me to be a taxi driver, right there. Sam, I don't know what games you play, Sam, but so that's my my kind of take. I wish we would commemorate the life of people. Even the dead person doesn't, and then there's got to be fake crying, by the way. In most Indo-Pak kind of funerals, they've got to be like, oh. Come on, behave. And then some of the auntie G's, Oscar nominating performances. They're like Oscars. They're like going in for their Oscar and BAFTA awards. They're like, I got this. And they're like, oh. And then they just chant something in that rhythm. Oh, Maria. Oh. And I think all the way in America, the Native Americans can hear it and they think it's some kind of a war cry. So yeah, so that's what goes on in funerals. God, what a boring funeral. I think like people, I don't think the dead person would want you to be doing all of that. The dead person would be like, listen, just chill. All right, I'm dead. There's, I can't really help that, but I'd rather you guys at least just were happy about my life and what I did, rather than just sit here and go, I swear, I don't know. That's how I think anyway. What? But yeah, let's take some more questions now, people. I was wailing. What's that? When I was young, took me to a funeral and it put me off for such, all this wailing, it really does, seriously. And I really wish that Muslims do start that trend. I'm serious about that. About starting to commemorate somebody's life. Let's celebrate what they lived as opposed to the fact that they're dead. And let's say some nice words and let's speak about their achievements. I think the family would appreciate that, and I think the person would appreciate that. They'd be like, yeah, hell yeah. Somebody said the other day that they go, oh, when you're dead. People have these fantasies that, oh, when you're dead, it's gonna serve you right, innit? They act like I'm the only one that's gonna die. They're like, when you're dead, this is how you're gonna be remembered. Yeah, you could be remembered like somebody that was a deviant. Yeah, and he was an internet troll. Well, when you turn up, you're gonna find me like this. I'm like, get a life, man. What kind of sick fantasies have you got, man? When you die. On that note, I sometimes read what people say, and by the way, this is nothing new. People, in the past, the amount of people that wished scholars like Abu Hanifa would just die. The amount of scholars that said, we pray to God that will he just kill Abu Hanifa. Seriously, this is, it's shocking, but they were great scholars that were saying it as well. They were saying, I read a post the other day, kind of indirectly, it was a little while back, indirectly at me saying, is it permissible to pray that some of these modernists die? Some of these modernist so-called scholars like that. And the person said, yeah, you can make that dua. Why not? Because they're spreading fitna and fasad. Ya Allah. Him. Alright. No, not him. That one behind him. Okay. No, the other one. Oh, okay, whoa. That was a close one. I don't know what kind of contract they think they've got with God. They're like, yeah, mate. Yeah, mate, sure. Anybody else you want dead? So people, you know, the way they revel in these things. So I had somebody say, yeah, I can't wait till, you know, you go all bold. Some people are writing this, that they can't wait till I go all bold. And they're like, I can't wait till you go all bold and you lose your muscles. And you're going to be like, and then what you going to do? Honestly, these people make my day, man. I read this kind of stuff and I think, wow. You know, I overestimated you, man. I just thought you were just miserable. But you're like at the pits of misery. You're like right down there, man. You're like, your life must be so miserable, man. I read somebody, this guy, this hater, write on one of his things, I can't wait till there's a scandal about him. And then he said that, you know, these kind of scholars, these kind of muftis, watch, all that's going to happen in the end is he's going to go back to Punjab or Kashmir and marry his cousin. Like, I read that and I was like, what? What kind of sick fantasies have you got about me? I mean, like, what do I do in your fantasies? What? Okay, so, okay. I'm with my cousin. What happens next? I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you people, man? Wow. And then you click on their profile pictures and you say, cha. Now I know why you're miserable. But it's amazing, man. They're like the person was seriously saying this, like, watch, this is what's gonna happen. And you think, wow, live your life, man. Enjoy life, relax, go out there, man, chill. हर फिकर को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया. Go live, yaar, enjoy. So, right, so people are like, you know, I'm always tripping. People are like, can't wait for him. You naughty, you want to do scandal? Oh, on that note, you know, yesterday I saw some messages by, I think this convert, her name's Anisa. So somebody making a profile with my name, naughty, but changing it slightly. So they would, because I've got Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki, so they've got, like they've put something else. The page has been removed now, it's been removed. But, so somebody was messaging her, naughty, but just this kind of, so she sent me these screenshots, and she actually commented on my live saying, how can you be live and messaging me at the same time? So later on I saw this and messaged her, and she said, look, I realized it's not your page, but it's somebody impersonating you. So she sent me the screenshots, and the screenshots were like, dear sister, oh, can I talk to you about dawah? First of all, I never address any woman as sister. That never happens. Okay, right, so that's never ever. That's just like not happening to start off with. Secondly, I don't talk about dawah, you know, this one. This one, not my style, you know. So, nah, but I mean, that was good that that page was reported. And so if you ever get any of those, dear sister or dear brother, Want to talk about dawah? So then you know that I don't think that's going to be Mufti Abu Layth. So yeah, so just be on your guard, people. Be on your guard. So, what are we looking at, man? What are we looking at? What's going down, people? This Amar Akbar Anthony one. Right, so I think yesterday a lot of people were kind of shocked. I was asked in the Q&A by a non-Muslim. He said, as ambassadors of faith, as ambassadors of Islam, what would be your first piece of advice to Muslims? What ought you do? What should you start doing? All Muslims. So I actually said, the first thing Muslims should stop doing, or should do, is stop doing dawah. And I was very serious, by the way. I said Muslims should just stop this da'wah thing, man. Honestly. I'm really serious when I say stuff like that. Because da'wah is a joke. If da'wah was being led by people like Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, every day, each day and every day. But the problem is it's not. Okay. Da'wah, by and large, the da'wah industry is run by people who are just like, they've got like 5 minutes of Islam under their belt. And the damage they do to Islam, and I don't see what the craze is about bringing converts in. Don't get me wrong. Don't get it twisted, people. Those of you that do convert, I find it amazing that anybody converts to Islam. I'm going to be honest. Given the reputation Islam has got today. So alhamdulillah, I think it's an amazing testimony and an achievement by the person who's converted. May Allah bless them and keep them smiling and steadfast. But that said, I do not feel we are in some desperate need of converting people to Islam. We have got a hell of a lot of Muslims on the globe. Okay. I think we're approaching at some point 2 billion. I mean, it's 5 billion, or it's gone up now. There are a hell of a lot of Muslims. And first of all, a huge portion of them are just apostating because they're sick to death of the religion. Right? Then there's another huge portion who we're chucking out of the religion. So we're throwing out like about another 20, 25, 30% of Muslims out of Islam on a daily basis. This is us as Muslims. So we're like, you kafir, you kafir, you kafir, you kafir. So we're chucking out a huge chunk of Muslims every day. And then we're obsessed about bringing in new Muslims. Why? Why do you want to bring them into this mess? This is a mess. And then all that's going to happen is they're going to have the fresh ideas, and then you're just going to they're either going to apostate or you're going to chuck them out of Islam anyway. So what's the point of all of this? Yeah. So I'm totally not intrigued by this kind of da'wah scene. And I really wish it would stop. And the first thing that Muslims should do is just focus on becoming good human beings. Rule number 1. Honestly, if we can just practice that, everything else will fall into place. And those who want to do dawah, instead of wasting your time on that, and I said wasting, right, why not invest it on learning about Islam? That's what is your views on the modernist Islam movement? What is the modernist Islam movement? I don't know what the modernist Islam movement is. Oh, there's Anisa. Alright. right? Anisa saying, well, isn't there a reward for da'wah? Look, there is. I'm not saying there isn't a reward for calling people to a beautiful message of Islam. The problem is today we are obsessed about this numbers game. I converted 23 people. Hey, who did you convert today? I converted 4. You only converted 4. I heard somebody yesterday quote a da'i scholar by saying that I am a mean MF beep 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 beep. There was some beep beep in there. I'm a beep beep mean converting machine. It's like a shahada machine. Like I've taken so many shahadas. If I go to Hyde Park, I just take shahadas. Give me your shahada, goddammit. It's like, say, I converted people to Islam. Honestly, what good is that? What is there for these people once they convert to Islam? Nothing. There's nothing for Muslims, let alone them. Nobody is there for these people. No person, I agree with you. I mean, guidance comes from Allah, but I'm just addressing this phenomenon. Okay, I'm just addressing this phenomenon. Don't just so exactly. And I'm not into all of this. Okay, can men wear gold? Living in the West, it's a standard custom. I've answered this before. In my understanding, there is a difference of opinion, and many of the scholars, and I've gone through this in depth. I do believe that gold is probably was discouraged and not haram, in my understanding, for men. Although I don't advise men to wear it because of the overwhelming predominant Muslim culture. This is Muslim men, that Muslims, because they so condemn this, I would just advise not to do it. I don't believe it to be haram, and I've answered that in much more detail before. And the same thing with silk. I think these ahadith, which are in Bukhari and in some of the other books, that the Prophet said this is haram, what he meant, what that hadith was speaking about, was discouraging people. Why was the Prophet discouraging people at the time? Because these were seen as items of immense luxury. And what this would do was it was not befitting for a culture that was like a kind of very warrior Viking-like culture that needed that kind of warrior lifestyle to survive against the hostile potential attacks. Hence, in Sahih Bukhari, the Prophet comes into a house, into somebody's house, and he sees some tools of agriculture, like so alatan lil harth, so for kind of plowing the fields, and the Prophet speaks like ill of it. He says that this he says that la tadkhulu baytan illa wa adkhalat ma'aha adh-dhul, that this only enters a house except it brings with it disgrace. That's in Sahih Bukhari. But why was the Prophet saying that? There's nothing wrong with agriculture. Agriculture is amazing. But it's that, you see, Ibn Ashur comments, yes, that's in Bukhari, and Ibn Ashur comments that this was simply because of the lifestyle that the Prophet was trying to, and in another hadith he says, when you see people leaving this kind of warfare and leaving that kind of lifestyle, and they hold on to the tails of cows and things like this, although that has been critiqued, that hadith, elsewhere, the chain, but I'm just giving you an example that these people relied, you see, they were being attacked. If you live in a lifestyle, the whole peninsula is a tribal war kind of mongering peninsula. If you just immediately have a soft lifestyle, people will just eat you up. So the Prophet was trying to first of all stabilize the region, and that's what was important. Once he'd stabilized it, these things were they were fine. But that said, people took this ruling of gold and silk for men, and it became widespread. Therefore, I see as discouraged because of that, and not haram, and I wouldn't advise for it because of the strong Muslim culture against it. Can I elaborate on Allama Iqbal's philosophy on khudi? I'm not, maybe another time, inshallah, maybe another time. Can you give zakat to Sayyid? I think what you want to say is to Sayyid, to Sadat, people who are from the family of the Prophet. Now, generally there is a hadith that speaks against that, but the Maliki ulama did permit this. The Maliki ulama, beginning with people like Asbagh, who was a great legendary Maliki from the Iraq region, he initially said you could give general charity to Ahlul Bayt, people who are Hashimi, are from Bani Hashim, because the day and age has changed. But then after him, Abu Bakr al-Abhari, who was a legendary Maliki scholar from Iraq over 1,000 years ago, said even zakat is permissible for Hashimiyin, for Bani Hashim, because the day and age has changed and the state doesn't really provide for them, and they count just like every other poor person. So if you knew somebody that was a Sayyid and they needed money, then you can give them zakat based on this understanding of the Maliki madhab and the fatwa given by Abu Bakr al-Abhari and certain Maliki ulama. Okay? Because the reason the Prophet said that hadith was for twofold. One, the Prophet is describing that, look, we don't need zakat and stuff like this. But I actually understand this hadith to be, more importantly, the Prophet was creating a gap, a buffer between potential exploitation. That some people, you know, like today, there is already exploitation of this Bani Hashim thing. There is huge exploitation of this Sayyid thing. So there will be people who, because they're Sayyid, they demand a certain amount of extra, like, treat me differently, I'm a Sayyid. So you see, the Prophet knew this would happen, that people would start misusing an alleged lineage to him, in saying that so you see scholars who claim to be Sayyid want to be treated like something else. Or if there's a Pir Sahib who claims to be Sayyid, wants to be treated like something else. Or if there's, or Sayyids generally think like we're like, not all of them, but some people think we're above other Muslims. We're above, and that's not true. So this exploitation, can you imagine if they were, if what might have happened is these people may have said, oh, you know, when you're giving charity to people, why don't you give it to the family of the Prophet? We're more deserving of your money. So this may have kind of funneled the wealth that was being given in charity donations just to them. So the Prophet shut this door and closed this medium. Hence he said that it was haram to give his offspring, because he knew that there would be people amongst them that would exploit this. So that said, if there are genuine Sayyids who, Sayyid or not Sayyid, but if they happen to coincidentally be Sayyid, but if they are poor and in need of charity, then as the Maliki ulama said in their day and age, look, if they're poor, it doesn't matter if they're Sayyid, you can give them zakat. Okay, and that's what I would advise as well. Okay, in line with the legacy of the school of Medina. See, that can also be like an M for the school of Medina. Right, people, let's take a look at some. Right, okay, so I wanted to highlight, there's been a my thoughts on something Sheikh YasirQadhi wrote. Okay, and it was circulated. Sheikh YasirQadhi, who I do respect. Now, Sheikh YasirQadhi made what appears to be a post about my last week's video. Now, it appears to be about that, even though he didn't use my name. And in some of the comments, people said, you know, this is just to Malm, isn't it? It's just to Mufti Abu Layth al-Maliki. And I think he just ignored it, but it was very evident, because he was speaking about mocking the Dajjal. Okay. Now, I would just like to say, first and foremost, let's get this part out there. What can we all please understand what sarcasm means? Okay. If not, please refer to a dictionary. Okay. A sarcasm is when you state something, right, not believing it to be true. Right. So you state something humorously, believing the opposite. And you're being antagonistic by stating that. Okay. So when I said, oh, look, I want to be a big Dajjal, because somebody, that Mulvi YasirQadhi had made a post about me saying on Monday nights these small Dajjals come out, saying about me because of Monday nights with Mufti. So I said that, oh, I'm offended, I want to be a big Dajjal, and I kind of laughed my head off. Some people, I'm really surprised the level, you know, wallahi, the level of, it's things like this that really make me realize that we're not even bottom set. We're like just special educational needs. That's what we're dealing with. Like, people are like, oh, but he said the dal. Oh, he's the dal. Why would he want to be the dal? Oh. You know, like, do you understand sarcasm? Like, do you understand what sarcasm is? It's like, when I said, oh, why did he call me a small Dajjal? I want to be a big Dajjal. I don't even believe that the Dajjal exists. Okay, so can you get over this, please? That's just to those people who really struggled in understanding. So I had to kind of dumb it down to like caveman speak, to kind of me, no the me, no the dal, me no one be the dal, huh? No one be the dal. Why you say be the dal? Oh, sarcasm. This is sarcasm. This is, I mean, now that hopefully that part has been clarified, alhamdulillah. So now I think we can come back to Homo sapien speak and move beyond Neanderthal kind of speak. Right? So now that we're back at sapien level, right? So that's that thing. So when I said, oh, I want to be a big Dajjal, relax, calm yourself. I don't really want to be the Dajjal. I don't even believe that Dajjal's going to come. There is no such thing as an Antichrist. Okay, so put that aside. Coming to what Sheikh YasirQadhi said. Yes, Sheikh YasirQadhi and some other scholars said that, okay, he's joking. This person's mocking and joking this thing. But it's haram. Haram to mock any belief in Islam. It's haram, even if you don't believe in that belief. Aha. Now this one interesting. This one I like, you know, this one. So I thought, I thought that's rather amusing and interesting, because look, do you believe, like my first point, because first, just to clarify, it is absolutely fine, people, in Islam, it is absolutely fine to use satire to ridicule any ideas that you do not believe in. Whether you should do it or not is up to you, but it is not haram by any standard. Okay. Now let me come back to their argument. My first point would be to ask, do you believe it's haram to mock unconditionally? Like anybody, you can never mock. A human being can never mock another human being. Do you believe this? So if my neighbor said to me he believes he is God, can I mock that idea? And if you say yes, why? Why can I mock it? Because you're going to say it's stupid. Say, oh, so you can mock things you believe, but he genuinely believes he is God. Let's say he said, the Lord Vishnu has come into me, I am a reincarnation of Vishnu, I am God. Now, you feel that you can mock that. Why, I would ask? Just because it's stupid? That's interesting. So, let's get closer and closer. You feel that, let's take stemming from the second coming of Jesus and the Dajjal and these beliefs, came in India the phenomenon of the Qadianis. You, YasirQadhi Sahab, and all these other people would never say it's haram to mock the Qadianis, and they themselves mock the Qadian. Whether he does it personally, but he would have no problem with people mocking the Qadianis, for example. Why? Because they believe it to be wrong. Okay, interesting. Let's get closer still. What about within Islam? What about the Shia? YasirQadhi, okay, fair enough. YasirQadhi Sahab, he did an interview where he said, I've backtracked and taken back a lot of I used to be really harsh against the Shia, and I've he said he's moved away from his past, and because he used to be a Salafi, but he said he stopped those kind of hardline, let's say Salafi Wahhabi beliefs, and he doesn't have that kind of hatred with Shia, and he wants to build bridges. He said in an interview, and I respect that, and I think most Muslims love and respect that, and respect where respect is due. But let's be honest, Sheikh Yasir, you would have no problem with all the Muslims who mock mut'ah, temporary marriages of the Shia, and it's done non-stop in the books of Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah mocks the Shia. Yet you wouldn't say, you asked indirectly, you asked me to repent to Allah. Yet you wouldn't say Ibn Taymiyyah needs to repent to Allah, although he's dead, but Albani, the Salafiyah, are known for their strong hatred of the Shia and mocking them. They mock, let's say, the Mahdi, a belief of the 12th Mahdi, the 12th Imam of the Shia, who is allegedly in some hiding place, and he's going to come out towards the end of time. Now, who the Sunnis believe will be their Mahdi, or some of the Sunnis, unfortunately they took this from the Shia concept and they just turned it into their own version, and they're awaiting a Mahdi and the Shia are awaiting a Mahdi. But the Shia believe the Mahdi is the same Mahdi that was from almost 1,000 years ago. He went into hiding in some cave and he will come out towards the end of time. And the Sunnis generally mock that and ridicule it and crack jokes about it in all their books. They find it, they say this is absurd. Would you say all those people need to do tawbah to Allah? They mock non-stop. Let me actually, right, I'm just going to see if I can bring up one moment. Whilst we're speaking on this topic, I should have here somewhere. Right. Okay, I've got an interesting one. The majority of the Muslims, because some people have said that this has to be about beliefs. They said it has to be about beliefs. We're not saying mocking fiqh, because otherwise in the fiqh books, the Hanafis mock the Shafi'is, the Hanafis in so many of their fiqh books write that, oh, because the Shafi'iyah say sperm is pure, so why don't they drink it? This is what they write. They write that because the Shafi'is and the Hanbalis say sperm is not impure, why don't they drink it then? Which is just mocking them. Right? So these kind of things. So some of these scholars are saying, oh, but we're not saying about fiqh. We're not saying about fiqh. We're speaking about beliefs. So okay, I'm going to ask you something here. Right now, there is the majority of the Muslims right throughout the world who are Sunni. The majority of the Muslims, like of Sunni, let's say 80 to 90% of Muslims worldwide belong to the Ash'ari kind of, loosely, they belong to the Ash'ari creed, right, which is the Ash'ari and Maturidi. These people make up, most people may not know this, but they do. Like, so just as in Pakistan, whether somebody knows he's Hanafi or not, but he's been taught how to pray and practice Islam in accordance with the Hanafi madhab. So to people that know they are Hanafi, whether they know this or not. So, because their learning of Islam has come through the Hanafi methodology. So when it comes to belief, most Muslims have been taught about Allah and Islam through the Ash'ari understanding. Now, what did Ibn Taymiyyah have to say about the Ash'aris? This one interesting, this one. Right. Ibn Taymiyyah, in his book, and this was asked to, by the way, Sheikh Salih al-Munajjid. You know, these names, these, upon the Sunnah, Quran and Sunnah. Okay, Sheikh. So Sheikh Salih al-Munajjid was asked about the disturbing comment of Sheikh Ibn Taymiyyah, who referred in his book, he's asked about the comment that Ibn Taymiyyah said al-Ash'ariyya, the Ash'ariyya are makhanith al-Mu'tazila. They are the eunuchs. Those men without penises, basically, without private parts, that came from the Mu'tazila. Right? So, because so he's asked about this comment, Sheikh Salih al-Munajjid, right? Upon the Salaf. I always feel like I have to do some kind of kata movement when I'm kind of quoting the the hardline Salaf. Like, Allahu Akbar. Right? So, he responds, Sheikh Salih, Hafidahullah. You know, they do all the... right, so he's asked, what do you have to say about... He responds, where is it? Where is this one? He responds by saying, yes, that's absolutely correct. Ibn Taymiyyah has said this in his Kitab al-Nubuwat. And he says, Al-Istidlal bil-A'rad ala huduth ma yalzamuhu min al-Jawahir. And then he goes on to show his proof. And he says, look, he says, فَتِلْكَ the Ash'aris, فَتِلْكَ هِيَ طَرِيقَةُ الْجَهْمِيَّةِ الْمَشْهُورَةِ. They are really just like the Jahmis, who were a deviant sect. وَهِيَ الَّتِي سَلَكَهَا الْعَشْعَرِي. Abu al-Hasan al-Ash'ari just followed the Jahmis. فِي كُتُبِهِ كُلِّهَا مُتَابِعَةً لِلْمُعْتَزِلَةِ. He was following the Mu'tazila. وَلِهَذَا قِيلًا. And this is why we say al-Ash'ariyya makhanith al-Mu'tazila. Why do we say this? Because he said they couldn't go the full way that the Mu'tazila went. They agreed with us in rejecting, in saying that you will see Allah in the afterlife, but they rejected that Allah has a direction. And he quotes 1-2 other examples, and he says, so they were like, they tried to be like us in this, but they were like them in those things, the Mu'tazila. Therefore, Ibn Taymiyyah, and he says 1-2 other people as well, refer to them as makhanith, the khuntha, not a man and not a woman, the he-she, the he-she's of the deviant sect Mu'tazila. Now I ask you, Sheikh Sheikh YasirQadhi, is he not mocking the majority of the Muslims worldwide today by calling them, in essence, eunuchs? That they're men who are he-she men, she-males, the she-male men of the, which is, by the way, 80% of the Muslim world. He has just mocked 80% of all Muslims today by calling them he-she's of a deviant sect? Is that not mocking that they're khuntha? Would you condemn? And by the way, Salih al-Munajjid goes on to justify and defend his argument, and he quotes another Salafi, Safar al-Hawali, who also justifies it. Would you support that? And you may say, I don't support it, but would you say that is mocking, it is haram, Ibn Taymiyyah is now dead, but he ought to have done tawbah to Allah for that? Would you say that? No, you wouldn't. You would just say, in fact, you'd refer to him as Shaykhul Islam. Shaykhul Islam. Which is interesting. So, is that not double standards? Is this not hypocritical? And speaking on this note, I want to bring something to your attention, people, about if I've got it here, since I just remembered. Or is it on? I'm going to bring that up as well. Since we're speaking about Ibn Taymiyyah, it's on this phone, because I like to quote verbatim. Now, you see, what's interesting as well, they're saying, oh no, but his view, you see, my view of denying the actual Antichrist is such a corrupt view, and therefore, and then mocking it, deserves tawbah. So we've seen here Ibn Taymiyyah mocking the majority of the Muslims by calling them he-she's, in between, men without genitals, and so, but they're still going to refer to him as Shaykhul Islam. And then what I wanted to quote, you know, when people send me all these WhatsApp things, and then I've got too many things in my right, is yes. So I'm going to bring this up. Is an interesting point. And what I can do is I can actually, if you like, I can quote this in more detail in next week's session, but let me give you the summary. Those of you who know about the satanic verses, right? Those of you who know about the satanic verses, the satanic verses are this understanding that the Prophet allegedly said some verses, he made them up, or the shaitan whispered them to him, and he said them to please the kuffar and to bring the kuffar of Quraysh closer to Islam. So this is the understand that the Prophet said this. Okay. Now, did you know most Muslims, this comes through certain hadith, the verses are known as gharaniq al-ula, that those great tycoons, these great gods, wa inna shafa'atahunna la turtaja, that Lat, Manat and Uzza, these three gods are great gods who people will intercede by in the afterlife. There are some hadith that claim the Prophet said this. And he said this, some people say he said it by mistake. Some people say he said this, the shaitan said it on his tongue. Some people say that it was the shaitan whispered it to him and he said it to bring the kuffar closer. Other scholars rejected this outright, like Qadi Iyad, and many great ulama of Islam said this is nonsense. It's a fabrication, it's a lie. Did you know what Ibn Taymiyyah had said on this? Shaykhul Islam, Ibn Taymiyyah. He said, yes, the Prophet said this himself. He read these verses, that the Prophet said it, and this was a mistake the Prophet made. He said that most likely maybe the shaitan had muddled it up in the Prophet's head, and when the Prophet was reading the Quran in Salah, and therefore he said this as a mistake, he ended up praising these false gods. But he said that's okay. It was a mistake from the Prophet, and but it's fine. It was later on corrected. This is what Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah writes. And I will, inshallah, next week, God willing, go through the exact details of him saying this. Then Sheikh Salih al-Munajjid and these other Salafi shuyukh are asked about Ibn Taymiyyah's version. He says this actually happened. And they say that's fine. What Ibn Taymiyyah said was fine. And other people have accepted this as well. He said that the prophets did used to make some mistakes. We accept that. And it doesn't go against anything major. Wow. Wow. The Prophet made a mistake to start off with. He made a mistake by praising false gods. Are you out of your goddamn mind? What kind of an absurd, ridiculous, blasphemous allegation are you throwing against the messenger of God? Is it not enough that you accuse him of pedophilia, love and slavery and all these other things and enforcing false testimonies and doing these things, that now that you guys are also saying that he even got Tawheed wrong, but he made a mistake? It's okay. He praised those three false gods. You know, Manat and Lat and Uzza. Yeah, but he said, but it was a mistake. The shaitan mixed it up in his head. What on earth are you on about? Have you no shame? This is the Prophet of God you're speaking about. Why would you speak of him in such such an irresponsible manner? And they say, yeah, but he was a human. He made a mistake. It was only a mistake. What do you mean it was a mistake? This isn't a little thing like, oh, the Prophet was putting this cup down and the cup fell off the table. We're not talking about mistakes like those kind of mistakes. You're talking about the whole message of Islam was one God. And here the Prophet made a mistake and he said, yeah, but these three gods are okay, good gods as well. But then later on corrected it. Yet you will never say that Ibn Taymiyyah here needs to repent to Allah. You will never say that. Your blood will never boil. You will never get offended. You will never disown these things. Yet you get offended at me. You know, the irony, I said this yesterday, that these people, they constantly go on reaffirming all these kind of nonsensical things to the Prophet. They constantly go on and it doesn't make their blood boil. That they say things like constantly. I saw another video by Sheikh YasirQadhi. It looked like a recent video and I was deeply disappointed again that why the Prophet married a 9-year-old. They keep reinforcing this. It really ticks me off. Like, I don't understand why you have to keep putting the Prophet's name on a list of people. Why do you have to do this? That doesn't offend you. They keep reinforcing these kind of nonsensical, ridiculous things. They will never condemn their ulama. Ibn Taymiyyah said this now, but he's still Shaykh al-Islam. It doesn't matter. Ibn Taymiyyah said hell doesn't, but he's still Shaykh al-Islam. I mock the Antichrist. I mock the Dajjal and your blood boils. Is that where your love and loyalty lies, with the Dajjal? That the only time you get offended is when somebody mocks the Dajjal. People are mocking the Prophet of God. Nothing bothers you. You know, they refer to Maria. Maria, generally people have transmitted she was a slave girl of the Prophet. I have said that the student of Imam Malik transmitted her as the wife of the Prophet. And just because she never spoke Arabic and she wasn't an Arab, she lived slightly separate in the Awali, which was just outside of Medina, at a slight distance. She lived over there. And that maybe she didn't mingle much because of language and cultural barriers. But she was a wife of the Prophet and she was the mother of his child. They will never acknowledge her wife status. They refer to her as just his slave. Right? These things don't make their blood boil. These things don't bother them. You know, Sheikh YasirQadhi shared another. By the way, that was a da'if hadith that he shared just this last week about the Prophet Khuzaymah ibn Thabit radiallahu an. He saw a dream, and in this dream he saw that he was prostrating and on top of the Prophet, and he came to the Prophet and he told the Prophet, and this is in the Musnad of Ahmad, and it's a weak da'if hadith. And that the Prophet said, oh, that's okay, here, fulfill your dream. And the Prophet lied down, and Khuzaymah prostrated his forehead on the forehead of the Prophet. What a ridiculous kind of narration. You know, kind of like with implications of shirk and stuff like this. And superstition and folklore. It's completely such a weak hadith. But yet Sheikh YasirQadhi quoted that just to justify some dream, something in relation with a dream, and somebody saw, and he was trying to say dreams can be good. Maybe dreams can be good. I'm not rejecting your message, but you can justify using absurdly weak da'if hadith, and you have no problem. But you have a problem with people mocking the Dajjal. So we need to put our priorities into order. Islam is being ripped to shreds, and you guys are so obsessed about the Antichrist. It's the wrong side. You guys are playing the wrong side. That's not this side. So, I mean, and I just feel that, look, Sheikh, this is wrong information. It is wrong of you to say things which are inaccurate. It is not haram in Islam to mock beliefs you disagree with. Just as you would mock, let's say, Lord Hanuman, the monkey god. You would mock that. You wouldn't just say, because, or maybe you don't mock it then. But then you have to be consistent. You can never mock any belief ever. But then the Quran mocks idolatry. The Quran says that, look, this is stupid. مَا لَكُمْ لَا تَنْطِقُونَ. Why don't you speak if you're gods? Why don't they do this then? Why don't they? The Quran mocks them. The Quran mocks people who act so powerful. And says, Allah says on the Day of Judgment, ذُقْ إِنَّكَ أَنْتَ الْعَزِيزُ الْكَرِيمُ. You know, taste this punishment. I thought you're so powerful. Is that not mockery? Allah is showing. Now you're saying, well, oh, this is haram in Islam. It's not haram. Why are you? And everybody's doing. Ibn Taymiyyah is calling the majority of the Muslims like she-males, eunuchs, men without, private parts. Why? Because he disagrees with the Aqidah. That's no way to behave then. So, but you wouldn't condemn him. Ibn Taymiyyah is saying, yeah, the Prophet made a mistake and praised the false gods. You don't have a problem with Ibn Taymiyyah. You might say, I disagree with that, but I respectfully disagree. You can respectfully disagree. I can mock the hell out of it. That's your personality. You may have an amazing personality that you never ridicule something, and I respect that and I love that. But to say to somebody that, oh, it's haram and you need to repent to God because you mocked a belief is unacceptable. It's a false teaching. And it's not true. Yes, by all means, you can advise. I get that. You see, you can advise. You can say, look, brother or whatever, Mufti or whoever, I don't advise you to take this tone because it may have a negative reaction. And that's beautiful, that's amazing, and that's on point. And I'd actually agree with you. You are right. I will have a backlash by doing these things. And I know people, some scholars have said that. There was Sheikh Abdul Majid, I believe, from London or something, giving similar kind of advice that, look, if you crack these jokes, you're going to get a reaction. And I agree with you, and I much love and respect for giving that nasiha. But truth be told, it is not haram. That's what I was speaking about. So this is right. So that's my message to Sheikh YasirQadhi, who I do have love and respect for, and I've not personally attacked Sheikh YasirQadhi, but I have said that there's huge inconsistencies. Sheikh, if you're listening to this, there's huge inconsistencies in what you've said. The fact that you can do everything and it's okay, or that your scholars can do these things and it's okay. The Salafi ulama rip to shreds the rest of the Muslims. Ibn Taymiyyah rips them to shreds. That's okay. They can mock them. It's okay. They don't need to repent to God. Muslims can mock other religions. That's okay. They can mock Hindu beliefs. That's okay. They can mock Shia. That's okay. They can mock Qadianis. That's okay. Sufis can mock Salafis. Salafis can mock Sufis. Oh, but God forbid I mock the Dajjal. That becomes haram. So I think like this is an inconsistent message, that's all. And I'm just trying to be consistent, that it's either an all or nothing. Like it can't be, it only works when it's my gang, but it doesn't work when it's yours. My tribe, okay, your tribe, no, okay. that kind of logic doesn't work, that's all. Right, so I would say, look, I'm not advising people to mock. I just want to clarify this point. I'm not saying it's good to mock. I even accept the fact that, look, when I mock things, it's not necessarily the most strategic way. Sometimes I just can't help it. It's the kind of person I am. It's my personality. I see a lot of humor in things, and I do ridicule ideas I find to be ridiculous. And I accept that it's not the most profitable route to take. I accept that. And maybe, I don't know, maybe in time I will change, my personality will change. But I wouldn't, so I'm not telling people go out, start mocking people. I'm not saying that. And I accept that it's not the best way of conduct. But I wouldn't lie and say it's haram. It's like me saying, look, being lazy is not a good thing. Okay. Being lazy is not a good thing. But being lazy is not haram. There's a difference. Right? So being lazy can have negative consequences. It can make you lose out big time. One could argue you could just chill. I mean, I'm sure I'm to some extent lazy. Many people may be lazy, but some more than others. But it's not for somebody to say this is haram and you need to repent to Allah. That's a different thing altogether. That's twisting the word of God. So that's what I'd like to say. About the Maria al-Qibtiyya, yes, somebody. So that's my message first of all to Sheikh YasirQadhi. I hope you receive that, and it is with much love and respect. Okay, but yes, I do disagree strongly with your misinformation which I did find actually quite offensive. But yeah, other than that, inshallah, I do hope I have made your acquaintance in the past, and I do inshallah love to inshallah meet you again in the future. So other than that, much love, Sheikh. Stay blessed, but do take these words into account, and if you'd like to respond or not, it's entirely up to you. Right, so now the question somebody's asked about Maria al-Qibtiyya. Look, this was in the past, people had a trend that they did used to send slaves and servants, right? So especially kings and rulers. So somebody from Egypt sent Maria al-Qibtiyya and another servant. They sent them to the Prophet as a gift. And people used to do this in the past, like kings would send to other people, here you can have these servants. I'm sending a message, and with the message I'm sending a gift. So in the past, because slavery was prevalent, so people would send slaves as well as a gift. Now, I'm not denying that Maria was not sent by the ruler as a slave, but the Prophet, when he took her as a wife. Okay. And hence in the Quran, when Allah, according to some interpretations, that when Allah is speaking about certain verses in the Quran, some people say, and there's a difference of opinion, I accept that, when Allah is saying that, and some of your women whispered to each other, and Ya ayyuhan nabiyyu la tuharrim ma ahallallah, do not make haram what Allah has made halal. And there's different interpretations who that was and what was the incident about this. And because the verse says by taking an oath, because Allah has made these things halal. But one of the interpretation, and Allah says when some of your women said to another this and that and it offended you. Now some people say this is Aisha and Hafsa radiallahu anhuma, but some narrations say this was Maria al-Qibtiyya, the Coptic She's called Coptic because she was from the Copts. But Allah is referring, by that narration, Allah is referring to her as your woman. And Ibn Zubala, who was a student of Imam Malik and one of the early historians, writes a book that's Zawjatun Nabi and Azwajun Nabi, and amongst them he lists Maria al-Qibtiyya. And that is the understanding we take. Look, if you ever have multiple narrations that clash, you always look at the narrative, because we know that in the Prophet's time, marriage was something, it was simply a sense of acceptance of each other. Because many of the Prophet's wives, whether it was Safiya or Juwayriya or in other cases, people weren't, it wasn't this kind of big hoo-ha. People just saw that two people, they had this understanding and they did this ceremony, the do you accept me as this, I accept, and they would just sometimes announce it, or sometimes they would have some witness it, and then they would just move in as a couple and live formally as a couple, and people would recognize that. Hence they would recognize who the wives of the Prophet were. And it was in line with this that I had once previously said that, look, in this day and age, maybe some ulama need to re-evaluate the concept of boyfriend-girlfriend when it's exclusive. Does this not take the similar ruling as nikah? Because according to the school of Medina, it's the announcement that was necessary. And when people go mutually exclusive, that we're together, we are an item, just you and I, we're not going to see anybody else, that is that concept then not, is that not the nikah concept? So I had said this is a mahallu ijtihad, and I think that ulama need to revisit this today. But the point being here that there were many wives of the Prophet, that the scholars, like the Hadith of Anas says that we were discussing about Safiya, we didn't know is she his wife or not. So they said, let's see the way she behaves now in public. Does she go back with the Prophet? Does she dress in a certain way? If so, we know she's a wife. And then they said, oh, we knew she was a wife. So this understanding shows that people weren't always, it wasn't a big hoo-ha event. Hence the hadith in Tirmidhi that Abdurrahman ibn Auf comes back to the Prophet and he's got a bit of colour on his clothing, on his shirt, and the Prophet says, what's that? Yeah, Abdurrahman. And he says that, I just got married. And the Prophet says, Olim, why don't you give a walima, give a little do? Walau bishat, even if it's just a one sheep that you offer. Now, here was somebody in the time of the Prophet. Think about it. If you lived in the Prophet's time, you would think, if I get married, I'll definitely go invite the Prophet. But here it wasn't the case, because the social phenomenon of the time was that it was just a personal matter. Like you liked somebody, they liked you, and you just became exclusive with an understanding that they had, which was nikah. So now the thing is that Maria did not live generally in Medina. Like Medina was very small. By the way, Medina was smaller than the Prophet's mosque today. So it was small. It wasn't the city today, Medina. And Awali was at a little distance. So it would have been, I don't know, like maybe walking, one could say maybe anything from half an hour to 45 minutes of a distance. Maybe, like walking. It would be, so it was outside of, they say it was like 3 miles, but it's not the miles of today, it's a bit less than that. But it was from that distance from Medina. Now the Prophet, she used to live in the Awali, and many of the companions and people did live in the Awali. It was a settlement outside of Medina. Now, she lived there. So, and because of the language barriers and the communication barriers and the cultural barriers, it's natural for us to understand that she probably didn't mingle as much as other people. And that's understandable because, she didn't. But she is the mother of the children of the child of the Prophet. Ibrahim is her son. And the Prophet kept her in a very honourable state. She was never working or like this slave girl or something like this. So when you look at this context and you see how the student of Imam Malik put her as a wife, it makes sense that she was a wife. Other people may have still perceived her as a slave because that's their perception in the past. And you have to remember as well that whether this is not to be negative, but to be objective, that it was an incredibly tribal community, that and even after the companions and after, it was always like Arabs were, it was Arabia and it was Arabs. And people who weren't really Arabs, it took them a while to integrate and gain that level of acceptance. Even great companions like Salman al-Farisi, who was the Persian companion, he was a great companion, spent so many years with the Prophet, and helped save many Muslim lives by giving his techniques on how to defend Medina with the trenches. Yet some of the Sahaba, friendly, I don't mean in a bad way, I'm not trying to be negative, but they joked and kind of mocked him as a joke by saying that, you know, when they were saying their lineage, they said, Insab lana, give us your lineage, knowing that the Persians and the non-Arabs don't have lineages like that. And they were trying to be funny, that, you know, Sammi lana, tell us your forefathers. And they were just laughing. And he said, Ana ibn al-Islam, I'm the son of Islam. So, and it just kind of caused a deafening kind of silence. Like, they kind of felt bad about that joke. But I'm trying to show you that in that time it was tough. It was tough as a non-Arab to kind of really gain an acceptance. And then a woman. And then you've got language barriers. So yes, many people still perceived her to be a kind of slave. But she was the wife of the Prophet. Okay, so we have to recognize that. She was very beloved to the Prophet. That's something, and she was the mother of his child. So it is a bit sad to see that Muslims, when they have a choice between honoring and between maybe, you know, a lower status, they will still go with a lower status. I don't see why. Like, I don't see why you do that. And especially when you look at our history, it's very obvious. So these things still do exist. And I'm going to be honest, even great great scholars of Islam, like Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri. Like, look, Imam Malik would take from the golden chain. He would take from Nafi, who was the slave of Ibn Umar, from the Prophet. And that's considered one of the most authentic chains in Islam, considered the golden chain, as Silsilat al-Dhahabiyya. Yet when Imam Malik's teacher, Ibn Shihab Zuhri, who was a great in Hadith, a legend in Hadith, as in he had, obviously he was a master, and there's issues that he did used to kind of blend certain chains, and he had his own reasons maybe for doing so. But look, Ibn Shihab al-Zuhri, when he would quote those same hadith from the Prophet, from Ibn Umar, he would often not go through Nafi, who was the slave. Like, you got to just be honest. Like, why wouldn't he go through Nafi? He would go through, in fact, he would consider this a preferred chain was Salim, the son of Ibn Umar. Because he didn't like going through slaves. Because at the time, the slaves, people didn't like the fact that, you know, like, it's not whether, I'm not saying he in life discriminated against him, like, from opportunity, but this was the culture that was there, that they didn't like this kind of stuff. And even one of the caliphs, when he asked who are the great scholars that are alive, and they said, well, Ata ibn Abi Rabah, who was a black African, and he was the great faqih of Mecca. And he said, give me someone else. And they said Ibn Jubayr, who's the great, and these are tabi'een, is great students of Ibn Abbas, once again, a black African scholar. And he said somebody else. And they said Ibn Sirin, Ibn Sirin was who? Like, he was a Persian. And he said somebody else. And he said, what about, he said Hassan al-Basri, who was, once again, I think he had some European and some Persian ancestry. And he said somebody else. And he got angry. And they say his face kind of got heated. And then the person said, how about, I think he said Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. Or he said another scholar who was from an Arab tribe. And he said, okay. And he said that he said, if you said to me one more non-Arab, He said, what I was going to do to you, you were going to find out. He said that is there none? He said, is there nobody but these mawali, these slaves left to defend Islam? And you've got to understand that this culture was there. And I don't mean to diss them, but I'm just being honest. And that later on with the Abbasids, yes, more non-Muslims and, non-Arabs kind of gained prevalence. And they gained this kind of, until they became the dominating kind of thing on the scene. But under the early rule, it was very tribal. And it was all about Quraysh and Arabs but even though, so I'm not saying this to diss. I'm not saying this to diss. Look, everybody did great things. Even those rulers may have done great things and helped. But I'm just highlighting why many early people probably didn't give Maria al-Qibtiyya, radiyallahu anha, a great status. The status I believe that she always deserved in Islam. And I feel it was because of this baggage that was around in the culture. Okay. So, inshallah, those were some words. I think we're coming to an end. There were so many things I wanted to chat about. Damn. Got distracted. Okay, what else, people? Let's take some... Right, somebody had asked a question about... throwing people off buildings. Oh my God. Right. We're down on time a bit, but I think I need to answer this, people. So there's these clips going around that gays, right, homosexuals, need to be thrown off buildings. For God's sake. People teaching this, wallahi, could the shaitan find nobody else but them to destroy Islam? First of all, let me just give a brief, right. Somebody's just asked, do your teachers from your madrasas agree with your views now? Look, my teachers from my madrasa didn't agree with my views then. But look, you don't have to... I'm sure if anybody with a decent intelligence doesn't want me to be a clone of them, they want me to be me. Just as I don't want them to be clones of me. So, the fact many of my views have continued to change, and I've continued to review certain masail and re-examine them, and inshallah I want to next week, God willing, examine that hadith about women lacking intellect and things like this, because I've been had a discussion with somebody and it was really interesting. Had a discussion with Muhammad Hanif again from Birmingham. It's always awesome to meet up and have a chat, and he really made me look at certain things from a different perspective. I hadn't really viewed the chains and things like that of that hadith before. I had assumed, and to be honest, it was an oversight on my end. I had commented on the hadith about the lacking intellect, that maybe this was in humor and sarcasm that was taken in a different way. But he told me that if you look at the whole hadith, and I have looked since then at the whole hadith, and I did find it very problematic. So I will, inshallah, God willing, next week go through a whole analysis of why that hadith is inaccurate, okay, from the chains and from the content, and what may have been some reality to it, but how it got distorted. So I'll do that later on. But my point is, yes, my views do change. Look, if you talk to me about certain views, if you can show me something, I'm prepared to change. Like, if it makes sense to me, I want to follow what makes sense. I don't want to be somebody following something just blindly. So if you can correct me, like I said, I had this conversation with this brother, from local brother, Muhammad Hani, I believe on certain things he corrected me. Like, he showed me a perspective that maybe I wasn't really thinking about and I wasn't looking into. So when I looked at it, I did feel that, whoa, okay, you're right, that is problematic. And let me revisit my view on, revisit this whole thing, because I do not believe that to be correct. I agree with you. So let me revisit the whole thing, study the chains, and I'll come back to you next week, guys, about that. Okay, so the change, look, change is always gradual and it always happens, and I want to keep changing my views where I examine things. It doesn't mean change, it's not change for the sake of change, but where views kind of come across problematic. Well, even when I was in madrasa, I used to problematize different things, maybe different issues. I remember once I had a discussion with the Grand Mufti, who was the student of, he used to oversee my Mufti course. And we had a discussion on why is blood impure in Islam. So I said to him, look, I find this problematic. Why is blood impure? So he said, well, it's obvious. So we were walking, me and the Grand Mufti, who was one of the protege students of Mufti Taqi, by the way. And he was the one who kind of signed off and authorized my being a Mufti. And now the thing is, that was a 2-year course on top of the Alim course, the scholar course. Now, we were walking down, me and Mufti Saab, and I was asking, I said, Mufti Saab, what about this, and blood being impure? It doesn't, why is it impure? Where's the dalil? He said, what do you mean, where's the dalil? I said, where's the dalil? And he said, حُرِّمَ عَلَيْكُمُ that al-maytatu wa-damu, and this, and that dead meat has been made haram for you, and blood has been made haram, and pig. And I said, yeah, but that's saying it's been made haram to drink, because some of the Jahiliyyah Arabs would drink it as a kind of ritual. But why is it impure? Like, if I've got blood on my shirt, why do I have to wash it off? Like, I mean, obviously I can understand I want to wash it off, but why, if I've got blood on me, if I pray, it's impure? Like, I need to wash it. Why? Like, where is this from? So he said, yeah, because look, it's haram. I said, yeah, but eating poison is haram, but poison ain't impure. So his total convincing response was, he just punched me. He just kind of like gave me this little hook into my, I was like, okay. And he was like, shut up. So I was like, okay, Mufti Saab. That's madrasa life, man. You just gotta get punched up for saying things. So I was like, okay, Mufti Saab, thank you. Thank you, sir. Please come again. One of those. So but that's life. Yeah, just went straight. So yes, I did used to question things then as well. It wasn't. But to be honest with you, many of the asatidha, despite that, had very good relationships with me. There was Maulana Aziz ar-Rahman, a great scholar of Hadith, he would often invite me to his home, and I used to go to visit him privately at his house and read the Muwatta to him. He had a very good personal relationship with me, and at one point when I was share something personal. At one point when I was looking to to kind of like tie the knot, so to speak, to get married, he had actually said to me as well. He'd actually said that, look, if it wasn't in a nice way, because I was looking, and he said that, look, if it wasn't for your kind of modern outlook, because he said that you would obviously want to meet a girl, sit and talk with her and do stuff like this, isn't it? And I said, yeah. I said, obviously that's. He said, if it wasn't for that, I would have presented certain proposals to you. But he was like from a very tough Pashtun kind of community, and he said these things just won't work in our community. Like they won't let you just kind of sit and chat with the girl and stuff. So he said otherwise I would have been it would have pleased me to present certain people certain proposals that you could marry to. But so that's the kind of relationship that some of these people had with me. And even when I went back, I would visit, I would take gifts for people like that. There was another sheikh who taught Sahih Muslim, had a very good, awesome relationship with me. And he would stop his dars halfway and he would crack jokes with me. And he would say, Elaka in Pashto, that, Tamare, because I was Maliki, he would say, Tamare Nana Qazi Iyaz isme kya kehte hain? What would your granddad Qadi Iyad have to say about this issue? And these are the kind of, and in for Sahih Muslim, there was a great teacher, Abdullah Ibn Saba, who, look, all of these scholars, by the way, would disagree with my views on these things. I'm being honest with you. But I don't think that they would probably say that, look, these views, they disagree with them, but the love would be in its own place. Because even then they could see I thought very differently. There was Abdullah Ibn Saba, very awesome teacher, incredible style to him, used to teach Sahih Muslim as well, the other half of Sahih Muslim. Throughout the year, I was the person that would read his book, like read the book aloud in class. So, they would pick one student out of, we were about 85 students who would read the book aloud. It was me. I used to read it. And I visited him at his house personally. And he was very kind of sarcastic outside, but very loving at home. And he used to be one of these like, hey Baba. He used to have this style about him, hey Baba. I used to totally love him, honestly. And he used to say about me, about my Arabic kind of accent, because we used to read Haddathana Yahya ibn Yahya, and he used to go, hey Laka. No, he used to do this, hey Baba, ha, Yahya ibn Yahya. And proper, but he had an awesome, but he could see it. Look, my beard, I had it on the side, but it was still short. They could see that I used to wear these kind of funky blue tinted silver glasses. So I was still even very funky by those standards. I did used to have an imama on my head, but I used to have these kind of like steel silver frame blue tinted glasses. And so you can imagine, but yet they were still very respectful. I used to take top positions in class. Like I took top positions, like third position or first position, depend. In that class of Dawah Hadith of 85 people, I came third. And if I'm being honest, I never used to revise that hard. So if I revised hard, maybe I could have taken first position, but I used to just chill out. We were too busy watching movies. But this was the kind of relationship that they had with me. So I think they would disagree with me, but I don't think they would hate me. You understand? That's the difference. So that's my kind of relationship with those teachers. So that's and I would never rip into those people. I have immense love for them. But yeah, look, shall I quickly go over this question about this homosexuality question? Right, so, and some of them were really sarcastic as well, by the way. I just want to say that this Abdullah Ibn Saba was, his sense of humor was different, but like next level. Those of you that know, honestly, they know. Hashtag those who know. The guy was like next level. He used to have this proper, like he would be reading and he used to be like this. He used to look like that. The only way I can give you an example is that kind of scientist, the doc from Back to the Future. He used to look like him, but with a long orange beard, those NHS glasses, massive glasses, and like a Jinnah cap. And he'd be like this. Honestly, not in a bad way, but hyperactive. And he'd be like, if he caught anybody looking around in his class, he'd be like, Helaka. He would do these, hey Baba, stand up. And he'd do all of these ones like, who were you looking at? And you had to say someone. So you had to say like, I was looking at him. Then he'd be like, why were you looking at him? And then he'd ask that guy, hey, why is he looking at you? And yet, and then he'd be like, ask him after class, okay? Why was he looking at you? And you do all these kind of ones non-stop. Honestly, crazy ones, man. And you do these things like, you know, I remember there's this, these two kids, one's like, I mean, everybody there this was the final year, so everybody there was like probably in their mid-20s or early to mid-20s. So there's this one student, he's leaning against this other student like this. He's like leaning, and he goes, hey ladke, boy, like he calls him, and he goes, you know, in Arabic there's a construct. Like when you make a construct phrase, like if I say the book of Zayd or Zayd's book, this is a construct phrase. Like in English, you add apostrophe S. So this is called mudaf and mudaf ilay. Like in Arabic, mudaf, like to be constructed, like added. He goes, hey ladke, iski taraf mudaf kyun ho raha hai, mudaf? He would do these crazy ones, man, honestly. He had another level of humor. And it ripped the hell out of people, seriously. And it ripped the hell out of them for their Urdu. It ripped the hell out of them for anything. And so he had humor, so humor in a different way. But I totally, honestly, I love them so much from the depth of my heart. But it doesn't mean that they agree with me, and I would never expect them. And yes, people say, would you go and argue with them? I would never argue with them. They would just slap me across my face. It would be like, there'd be nothing to argue about. I would never do that, but that's just out of my love and respect for them. Okay, so, cool. Let's wrap this up with this final thing, guys. So, there's been this discussion in Europe about homosexuals and how they should be punished in Islam. Let me just clarify. Somebody sent me a message saying I think in Denmark, this is quite a hot topic right now, that people believe in Islam you're meant to chuck homosexuals off buildings. This is nonsense, people. Utter nonsense. Let me just clarify this. Right now, this thing, what is this about? And there's a viral clip, there's a clip that went viral about in the UK, some woman teaching in an Islamic school in a burqa, saying that we all know that, you know, gays and whatever, they're meant to be chucked off a cliff. These people that say these things do more damage to Islam than 30 Dajjals put together could possibly do, honestly. These people really need to get a grip of themselves and study Islam. It is not true, people. First of all, the Prophet never spoke about homosexuals. Okay, let's get the facts clear. These hadiths that they're bringing in Abu Dawood and everything, that man amila amala qawmi Lut, whosoever acts, does an action of the people of Lut, right? This is, by the way, on a side note, I think it's so raw. If I can just use the word, another word ain't coming to my mind. It's so raw and so unacceptable, but it's so widespread that homosexuals in the Islamic literature are called Luti, like the associates of Lut. And it's just like, this was the name of a prophet. And it's just such a disservice to Lut alayhi salam. Nobody would ever name their child Lut now. Like, that's never going to happen, because they've used the term to mean gay, right? So, anyway, but that's a different discussion. But, so all these hadith, every single hadith to do with this homosexuality is da'if. Da'if, people. It is da'if. There isn't a single Sahih hadith that the Prophet spoke about this. Okay, I'm just saying about the Prophet. Then there's some discussion, did the companions speak about this? Now people say Sayyidina Ali radiallahu an, they take back 5 different varying narrations to Sayyidina Ali. That Sayyidina Ali said, oh, execute them. He said, chop their head off. No, he said, throw them off a cliff. No, he said, burn them. No, he said this. I don't believe any of these to be authentic. I believe, but if people were going to take them authentically, if people, I mean, as the words of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh, this was referring, if they were, that he had said, we're going to kill these particular people. We have to look at who was Sayyidina Ali talking in his lifetime dealing with. And his greatest problem were the Khawarij. Those people who were massacring and butchering people. And they were they were like the fathers of, they were like ISIS on steroids. They were the fathers of this kind of ISIS movement. And they're known as the Khawarij, like an extremist group. Anybody who commits a sin is a kafir. So to them, the companions were kafirs. So they were the target of Sayyidina Ali's that battle and struggle. If anything, somebody wanted to believe that Sayyidina Ali was speaking about certain culprits from that group, that they needed to be executed, and people, and maybe whether they were also accused of homosexuality or not, I don't know, some amongst them, but generally just about homosexuality, not about them, I don't believe these to be authentic. Okay, and that's a different discussion that someday we can go through the chains and I can show you why they're weak. Now the scholars, when asked about this, Imam Malik and other scholars said, we believe, like Imam Malik, some people transmit that he said, oh, I've heard it still being said. And I believe that this comment of his is dismissive. He said, I heard it still being said that they ought to be stoned like the way people of zina are stoned and stuff like this. Now, to me, this I heard it being said was a dismissive way. Because rather than, why not him just say it? That's one thing. Now, other scholars said that, look, this hasn't been discussed, therefore we're going to just treat this like zina. This is the same ruling as zina. Like Imam Shafi'i, Ahmad ibn Hanbal and these scholars. Imam Abu Hanifa, other scholars like Ibrahim al-Nakha'i and other scholars like al-Hakam and al-Zahiriyya, they said, look, this can't be a had in Islam because Islam never spoke about it. So yes, Imam Abu Hanifa said you can have ta'zir. You can punish these people if you want. If you felt this was a public indecency, you could punish this with a punishment that you come up with. But it couldn't be capital punishment. Because in the Hanafi madhab, ta'zir doesn't reach the state of had. So that's the background. Now, people have started to say that there is ijma'. That these people have, anybody who commits homosexuality deserves death. This is what they're saying. That is nonsense. That is nonsense. Okay, let me just clarify. And there's a quote from Ibn al-Qayyim, because we're down on time, but you can find it online. Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyya, and Ibn Taymiyyah is one of the harsh people against all this homosexuality as well. But his student Ibn al-Qayyim goes on to say that we believe this is the greatest crime of humanity after disbelief. He says here, and it is arguably greater than murder. Honestly, I don't even know what to say to that. That is seriously misplaced. Honestly, these kind of things are disappointing statements. Disappointment isn't the word from Ibn al-Qayyim, who sometimes makes very interesting things. Who that on the left? There is nobody. Oh, you're talking about this thing. This is my couch. It's one of those reclining. So now Ibn al-Qayyim makes this statement saying that this is the greatest crime after disbelief is just sodomy. And he says sodomy with anybody or anything is just the greatest sin ever, and it's greater than murder, arguably. Just ridiculous. And I don't want to go into a psychoanalysis right there because I don't want to be disrespectful to Ibn al-Qayyim, but we know what psychoanalysis would kind of lead us to there. But this kind of thing is absurd. And people said nobody, first of all, no. Let me kind of just add something here. First of all, this is going to come as a real shock to people. There have actually even been scholars that have said homosexuality is fine, right? So I'm just going to scare the hell out of everybody by saying that. I'm not saying I agree with those scholars, but I'm saying that there have been scholars, great scholars, like al-Qadi Yahya ibn Aktham, who was a great scholar. He was the Supreme Judge of Basra. He was a contemporary of Imam Ahmad, and he was a good friend of Imam Ahmad, and until their later years they've had a falling out, and then they no longer kind of talk to each other. He was a great scholar of Hadith and fiqh, and he had his own way, like his own kind of way of madhab of doing things. Madhab usually implies a great following. It wasn't like that, but he was a man of great respect. He also was very close to the Caliph, Ma'mun. Hence, he became quite untouchable. So people say, why? Because he was very close to the Caliph. Ma'mun loved him. It's only in the last few months of Ma'mun's life that he had a falling out with him over the Quran creation issue. And they say Ma'mun kind of spoke a bit bad about him and distanced, but that was only for a few months, and then Ma'mun dies. But otherwise, Ma'mun loved him. Muhammad al-Amin, these people were really good with him. These were the caliphs, the sons of Harun al-Rashid. Now, he was openly homosexual, and he used to say that homosexuality, he used to prove it from the Quran. He used to say, Allah says in the Quran, and he was a great faqih and judge of his time, and he used to use the verses of the Quran like al-malu wal-banun zinatul hayatid dunya, that wealth and boys are the beauty of this world. That was his take. And he also went to he used the verse of the Quran that zuyyina linnasi hubbu shahwat, that these desires have been made pleasing to men, right? The following desires have been made pleasing to men. Minan nisa, of women, wal banin, and boys. Most people understood boys here to mean sons, but he said it was connected right with women. So he said that Allah is showing this, that this. So he was a clear proponent who openly argued, by the way. And the Caliph openly used to be homosexual as well. Like, in fact, Amin became strongly just homosexual, and Ma'mun was kind of both way. He was just sexual. He was just, I suppose it's fair game kind of thing. So they weren't really, like, he just wasn't fussed, boy, girl, wife, cousin, same. He was kind of like that. So he didn't really have much of an issue. Now, and by the way, some ulama say that this Yahya ibn Aktham thing, these are lies attributed to him. So there are many scholars that try to dissociate between him and these opinions. But the truth is, this is so well known. Even many, people like even Dhahabi will transmit them. All these people will say that. Some people say, okay, maybe people exaggerated, but this was so well known about him. It wasn't like a little unknown. There was a poem. I had this poem somewhere that people had said about. This was slightly just before him. This was about Amin, who was, by the way, Amin was obsessed with this particular slave boy of his called Kothar, right? And they said about him, and he gave him this position as well, and they said about him, Liwatul Khalifati U'juba wa a'jabu minhu khilaqul waziri. And they said that, the homosexuality of the wazir, of the Khalifa, is just it's like a wonder of the world. It's a juba kind of thing. And most amazing than that, it's something so like, wow, what the hell? More astonishing than that is what the minister gets, the portion of the minister. خلاق الوزير فهذا يدوس وهذا يداس كذاك لعمري خلاف الأمور. He said, well, this one does and that one gets done. And he said, for God's sake, things have just taken a different turn. And he kind of like said about that. And by the way, in his time, in Amin's time and Ma'mun's time, eunuchs, like these kind of boys, slave boys that were, you know, that were eunuchs. So for whatever reason, they were of no use sexually as active sexual males. Their prices massively increased. And you can check the books of history. Why? Because they were purchasing them like mad. And there was this craze about purchasing them. And so the reason I've said this is just to show that these things were, you know, so when people say, and I'm not saying I agree with these things, and these may come as a shock, but these things were known. And there was actually a poem. The Khalifa Ma'mun once got Qadi Yahya, and because this was so well known that poets had made poems about him, the Caliph himself came across this poem. So he said to him once, to wind him up, he said, Yahya, he said, what do you think about this poet who said, and the poet's name was something like Ahmad ibn Abi Nu'aym. And he said, he said, hey, who was the poet who said this? And he says the poem that Qadin, that a judge, yara al-hadda fi zina wala yara ala man yalutu min basi. He says, a judge who says that you should punish the adulterer, but he says there is no punishment for the one committing homosexuality. He says, oh, who was the poet that said that? And he was winding him up. And he follows on by saying, Qadi Yahya says, well, that was Ahmad ibn Abi Nu'aym. And he goes on to read another line of his where he's also attacking the Caliph. And he says, he's the one who also says this, by the way. So he kind of has a go at him. Now the reason I'm saying this is just to show you that, whoa. And he was a great scholar. Now, after him, by the way, there was after him the great Yahya ibn Aktham, junior to him, was, or a contemporary of him was the great Zahiri scholar, Dawood al-Zahiri. His son, Muhammad ibn Dawood, was also a known open homosexual. In fact, this book is an analysis of Dawood al-Asfahani's book, which was written for, if I can find it here, it was written for the boy who he was madly in love with, and his name was Muhammad ibn Jami' as-Saydlani. He was madly in love with him, and it was such a well-known thing. And in fact, they say about him that that this Ibn Jami', he used to be known by another name as well. Ibn Zukhruf. He was known by Ibn Zukhruf as well. That one day Ibn Zukhruf, like their love was so well known that one day Ibn Zukhruf was, they say, was looking in a mirror, and he thought to himself, wow, I am actually good looking. And he thought that I might give myself the evil eye. So he covered his face with a towel, and he walked to Ibn Dawood al-Asfahani, who was a great scholar, by the way, and Dawood says, why have you covered your face like this? He said that I saw myself with such beauty, such good looks, and I thought the first person to see me should be you. What's that? There's one of those like Shah Rukh Khan poses going on here. This is this one, love this one. What's that Faraz says? He says, बर्बाद करने के और भी कई रास्ते थे फराज, that there were many ways to destroy me, Faraz, that there were many ways if you thought about it. That बर्बाद करने के और भी कई रास्ते थे फराज, उनको न जाने उन्हें मोहब्बत का ही क्यों ख्याल आया. I wonder why they only thought of love. So this thing, you see, the reason I've said this is not to kind of upset people, but to burst the bubble. And even after, by the way, even after Ibn Dawood, who was madly in love with this person, Ibn Hazm's book, Tawqul Hamama, is full of this kind of stuff. My reason for saying this is, look, just chill out. You don't need to become gay. Nobody's telling you, and you won't become gay. You don't need to be so insecure about your sexuality. And I quoted the other day about, I quoted Imam Malik when he was asked in the Mudawwana, and I had it here, when he's asked in the Mudawwana about incestual relationships, which were a greater taboo, that people that are marrying their own mothers, and they're marrying their own sisters and daughters, and that's what they do. Should we, where possible, should we stop and intervene them? And Imam Malik said no. He said, if that's their deen, and deen means way of life, let it be. He says Allah teaches you to be tolerant even of those who reject him. So what about his laws? So this was the legend of Medina, people. So what I'm trying to say is that these things, by saying stuff like throw people off cliffs, what a stupid thing to say. What a stupid thing to say. Yes, in the past, certain scholars classed that as zina, the way they saw punishment for, and zina fell under public obscenity. That people that were causing public obscenities, and different places have punishments for these, which change over time. That they had a punishment for that. For some it was equal to zina. For some, they said, like Abu Hanifa, they said it was less than zina. Now others, and Ibrahim al-Nakhai and so on. Now, and then scholars along the centuries came, like Imam al-Burzuli, who said that in his day and age, 600 years ago, the hudud would change. All these punishments would change and reflect their age. And people continue to, and I've got a video on that on YouTube. So when you say these things, you make the damage you do to Islam, apart from just lying, and just attributing things to the Prophet and Allah that they have not said. And people say, yeah, but why did Allah punish the people of Lut so much? You see, what was the crime of the people of Lut? Yes, first of all, the verses speak of homosexuality, arguably about rape. They do speak about that. There is that angle. But what was their biggest crime? Their rejection of the Prophet, their torturing of the Prophet, them wanting to break into his house and kidnap and rape the guests that he had. The fact that they rejected the message of God in front of them, this was their primary crime. Not the fact, that's like saying, oh, the people of Madian were also destroyed, they also got punished. Yeah, but what did they used to do? That when they were buying and selling, they used to tip the scales. Yeah, but people are tipping the scales all the time. Do you hate them as well so much? Do you say when you sold that, you put the price of, the people of Madian, what did they do with Shu'aib? They got put, what did they do with Shu'aib? But their primary crime, the main crime, was how they rejected the Prophet of God. That was the main crime. Not, the other thing was also a crime. The fact that you tip the scales and you con the customers was also a crime. But was the destruction because of this? Now, where do you get that from? And that's just an opinion then. That's your inference. Allah didn't say that specifically. That's you inferring. So yes, look, because certain things are haram. First of all, not all scholars in Islam unanimously agreed that that was haram. Most outright majority did say it's haram. Some did disagree. So just being honest and being objective and transparent. Majority accepted it haram, and we accept it's haram. But you don't need to have that level of this hatred and saying things like this. So inshallah, people, we went on way too much today. Right, guys, you need to get some rest wherever you are, inshallah. I'm going to leave you to it. Inshallah, have an awesome week ahead, people. Take very good care of yourselves, inshallah. Any issues, do reach out to me. Message me. Facebook, Snapchat. It's Malm 2014, MALM 2014. And inshallah, stay in touch. Stay awesome, people. Stay laughing and stay blessed. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.